All right, guys, welcome to Unit 5, Pregnancy. I know you're all really excited about this unit. The essential question of this unit is how does human life begin and how can the unborn baby be protected? So this is Unit 5.1, A Baby's Beginning. We are going to be talking about the process of conception and how that's all possible. The objectives for this lesson is that you're going to be able to afterwards summarize the female's and the male's role in conception, identify the 3 stages of prenatal development, compare and contrast changes that occur within each stage of prenatal development, and give examples of developmental changes that occur month by month during the period of gestation. Do you know how long the prenatal period lasts? It's 280 days, which is 40 weeks or approximately 9.5 months, because when you think about it, a week is 7 days. That's only 28 days in a month. That would be 28 days in a month, but some months have 30 or 31 days, which accounts for those extra few days here and there, which is why it's not a complete 10 months, because each month is not 28 days. Each month is 30 or 31 days. All right, so let's talk about pregnancy. It's the process through which a new human prepares to enter the world. This process begins with conception when a baby is created inside the mother's body. Even before the mother knows she is pregnant, the baby affects her life. The mother's body changes to prepare for 9 months of growth. The prenatal period from conception to birth lasts 280 days and is the shortest stage in the human lifespan. This shaping stage is also the most critical time for a child's development. At no other time are 2 people closer than a mother and baby during the prenatal period. So let's talk about conception. A cell is the smallest unit of life that is able to reproduce itself. Human bodies have 2 types of cells. One type is body cells, the cells that make up the tissues and organs of the body. These cells reproduce themselves for growth and repair. The other type is called germ cells or sex cells, the cells involved in reproduction or the creation of a baby. Life begins with the joining of 2 separate germ cells, one from the female and one from the male. The female germ cell is the ovum, which we call the egg, and the male germ cell is the sperm. The joining of these 2 cells is called conception. At conception, ovum and sperm combine to form a single cell called a zygote. Another name for a zygote is a fertilized egg. All right, so the female's role. Before her own birth, the female produces and stores ova, or eggs, in her ovaries, which are our female reproductive glands. You can see on the screen there what an ovary looks like. Okay? When the ovum is stored in a small sac inside the ovary called a follicle. Okay? When the body becomes capable of reproduction, so when you get your period, so that's like 12 or 13 sometimes even earlier, okay? Then hormones will cause some follicles to grow and fill with fluid each month. Around the middle of the menstrual cycle, one ovum is released from that follicle and the other follicles that were growing become inactive. However, sometimes more than one ovum is released, in which case you could get fraternal twins. The release of the ovum from the ovary is then called ovulation. When the egg is released, it travels down the fallopian tubes. So look at the screen and see where the fallopian tubes are. The fallopian tubes are 2 hollow tubes that extend from the right and left sides of the uterus. The uterus, again, look at your screen and look at the uterus, is the organ in which the baby develops and is protected until birth. Okay? The cervix is the lower narrow portion of the uterus that connects the uterus to the vagina or birth canal. Okay, so look again and see where the cervix and cervical canal and vagina is. Okay, one end of each fallopian tube is connected to the uterus. The other end has finger-like projections. These projections lie near, but are not attached to, the ovary. Okay, so look at those finger-like projections that are next to the ovary there. The projections from the fallopian tube help gather the ovum as it emerges from the ovary. Once it's inside the fallopian tube, the ovum moves very slowly down the tube. Here is where the ovum is ready and available to be joined by a sperm. Okay, so conception happens in the fallopian tube. Okay, not anywhere else. Male are unlike females because females have all of their ova or eggs at birth, but males' testes, okay, so look at the screen and see where the testes are. Okay, they're housed in the scrotum. Okay, those are their reproductive glands. They do not produce sperm until the body is capable of reproduction. Okay, so when the first time the body releases semen, we call it seminarche. And that's kind of like a male period, but not really, in that it signals that they're ready for reproduction, just like a female's period signals she's ready for reproduction. Sperm production continues throughout the man's life. So a guy could have a kid when he's like 80. His sperm might not be great, but he'll still be making sperm, whereas women go through menopause and they can no longer have kids once they run out of all the eggs that they had been storing since birth. Okay? Sperm is contained in semen, which is a liquid which has over 300 million sperm that enters the female's body during intercourse. The sperm leaves the male's penis and enters the female's vagina. These sperm travel from the vagina to the cervix and then through the uterus up to reach the fallopian tube. The sperm's journey to the ovum will last only minutes, and many sperm do not survive. Only 300 to 500 sperm out of that 300 million will actually reach the fallopian tube, which is its final destination. Sperm then may meet the ovum at any point. Okay, so sperm may be hanging out in the fallopian tube and there's no egg there yet, but sperm can survive in the woman's body for up to 5 days usually. So they might be waiting up to 5 days for the ovum to show up, and then it's a race to see which sperm can break through the surface first. Okay. Conception usually occurs when the ovum is less than 1/3 of the way down the fallopian tube. After that point, conception is unlikely because the ovum has a very short lifespan. Okay, a woman's egg will only live about 24 hours after it is ovulated. Okay, the sperm approach the ovum and try to break through its surface. Only one sperm successfully enters or fertilizes the egg. Once one sperm is accepted, no other sperm can enter the ovum. The ovum seals itself off. Conception has occurred, and then you have a zygote. Now let's talk about the stages of prenatal development. Many changes happen in the time between conception and birth, which is called the period of gestation or pregnancy. This period lasts approximately 9 months, or 280 days, so it's more like 9.5-ish months. Okay, and is divided into 3 trimesters. A trimester is a period of 3 months. The baby's development that takes place during this time is called prenatal development. Prenatal development is divided into 3 stages: the germinal, embryonic, and fetal stage. Okay, the fetal stage is the longest. Okay, the germinal stage is the beginning of the first stage of prenatal development. It covers the first 2 weeks only of pregnancy. Once conception occurs, the fertilized egg, which we call the zygote, remains a single cell for about 30 hours before it starts to divide. On the 3rd day, the zygote forms a solid balls of cells, which we call a morula. By the 4th day, a fluid-filled cavity forms within the ball of cells, and we now call it a blastocyst. The blastocyst enters the uterus, where cells continue to divide rapidly for about 3 more days. During this time, the blastocyst floats freely around in the uterus. Then it begins to attach itself in the wall of the uterus, where cells continue to divide for several more days until implantation is complete. After implantation, the blastocyst will remain in the uterus until delivery. Okay guys, so make sure you pause the video and study this diagram because it shows how the egg changes during the germinal stage. Okay, the second stage of prenatal development is the embryonic stage, which lasts up until 6 weeks. So from week 2 to week 6. During this stage, the baby is called an embryo. Embryonic, called an embryo. The following support systems for pregnancy develop during the embryonic stage: the chorion, which is the outermost membrane that surrounds the baby in the uterus, and the amnion, which is a fluid-filled sac, both begin to form. They surround the cells and protect the baby until birth. The placenta is an organ filled with blood vessels, which develops against the wall of the uterus. As the placenta develops, it will nourish the baby, remove the mother's waste, exchange gases between mother and baby, and provide the baby with needed hormones. The umbilical cord contains 3 blood vessels that connect the baby to the placenta. The umbilical cord grows out from the developing child at the site of the future belly button and connects with the placenta. Experts say the embryonic stage is the most critical stage of prenatal development because almost all of the unborn baby's body systems will develop during this time. The baby receives both good and harmful substances from the mother's placenta through the umbilical cord. Because the baby's body parts are developing so quickly, passing harmful substances to the child can affect him or her for life. Therefore, the mother's health habits are very important during weeks 2 to 6. Okay, so no drugs, no alcohol, should be eating good for you food. Okay, the fetal stage is what's up next. The fetal stage of prenatal development begins 9 weeks after conception. From this point until birth, a baby is known medically as a fetus. During the fetal stage, all parts of the unborn baby's body mature, and overall size increases very quickly. By the 4th month, the fetus has usually grown enough to give the mother's growing abdomen a pregnant look. The following are several milestones that happen during the fetal stage. The heartbeat of the unborn baby can be heard through a doctor's stethoscope at 16 weeks. Okay, they can hear it through an ultrasound much sooner. The baby's movements can be felt by the mother. We call this quickening. 18 to 20 weeks for first-time mothers and 15 to 17 weeks for if you're a second-time or third-time mother. The age of viability is the time from when a baby can survive if it's born early. The minimum time of age of viability is 23 weeks. Okay, chances improve for the baby to survive if it's born each week after 23 weeks, the chances improve. Okay, although describing prenatal development by stages is accurate, the germinal stage, the embryonic stage, the fetal stage, these basic descriptions don't explain about how much the baby is developing. All developmental changes begin during the germinal and embryonic stage, which lasts most of the first trimester of pregnancy. The fetal stage lasts about 32 weeks, beginning in the last 1/4 of the first trimester and continuing through the second and third trimesters. Due to the long time period of the fetal stage, it's difficult to easily describe how much a baby grows and changes. It is most helpful to describe prenatal development in smaller segments. For instance, studying this development month by month makes it easier to describe how a baby grows and develops before birth. And we are going to talk about that in class. Yep. So in class, we'll do a project about how the baby grows week by week. This is the end of the first section. Thank you.